If you ever had a moment where you were unsure about if a game was for you or not, well, it's your lucky day. Thanks to how accessible things have becoming with digital distribution becoming as common as it is, there's a good chance that the game you're on the fence about has a demo you can check out. The idea of having a demo has actually existed for quite some time in gaming, but back when I was younger, I remember them being a special reward you'd get or something you'd have to go out of your way to obtain. Be it something like Sony had with their PlayStation demo discs if you had a subscription to their magazine, or you'd have to go to a local store and play a demo at a special station. The system I remember playing the demos for the most was the Nintendo 64, and demos for the Nintendo 64 were a bit special. They were special cartridges that Nintendo would hand out to stores like Walmart or Best Buy, and the store could set up a demo and have it playable for a set period of time. Afterwards, it was expected that the retailers would return the cartridges or just straight up destroy them to where they couldn't be usable. Today, I'll be talking about these very cartridges, games known as not for resale or NFR for short. Despite the fact that stores were supposed to get rid of them or return them to Nintendo, copies still found their way into the hands of the everyday gamer, and that's how we're able to play them today. I won't cover all of them, as there's actually quite a few, but I'll cover some of the more notable ones you'll see going for a pretty penny up on eBay. Without further ado, let's start with one of my favorite Nintendo 64 games, The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Upon starting the game, you'll notice that you've actually been put into a menu. From here you can choose a number of different options. You can watch the opening cutscene or just jump into the game somewhere. So let's just start with Clocktown. There really isn't a whole lot different here. You can have access to most of the items in the game, including almost all of the masks. But the game treats it like it's your first time in Clocktown, so cutscenes will still play when you enter a new area of town. I was also interested to see what would happen if you interacted with the owl statues, as they're normally used as a save point in the versions outside of Japan. And while you can't save, you do get a nice bit of text. What's interesting is, even though I selected Clocktown as the section to play, I can actually leave Clocktown and enter Termina Field and explore out there, even though Termina Field is an entirely different option in the menu. It seems like the game is actually rather open for you. You can seemingly just go anywhere in the world. You have access to most of the items that block progress, so you can just bypass roadblocks like the icicles leading to Snowhead. You could probably go through an entire cycle of the game, completing various things and maybe even beating a boss. But sadly, even if you beat a boss, upon collecting the remains, the game actually puts you back to the menu, so it's not possible to try and beat the game in this demo, which is unfortunate. But I guess that's enough with Majora's Mask for now. Let's move right on to Donkey Kong 64. Right away, you'll notice that the intro with the Nintendo 64 logo is actually much longer than the one in the final game. After it finishes, the normal DK wrap plays, so let's just move on. The title screen lacks any of the DK TV graphics and the video of DK moving around. Instead, we are greeted with a nice black screen. Unlike Majora's Mask, DK64 has no menu to choose what you want to play. Instead, it goes through scenarios you can play out. The first one is always the battle with Dogadon when playing as Chunky. One thing you'll notice right away here in this battle is that there's actually an icon for a white balloon with a star on it. This isn't actually used anywhere in the final game, but still exists on the cartridge. I'm not exactly sure what it was supposed to do, but you can see it here in the demo. Otherwise, this fight actually just plays out like normal, except Dogadon sounds a little bit different than he actually does in the final game. There are two other scenarios you can play in the demo, however I actually couldn't get into them as my game just kept freezing after I pressed start after beating Dogadon. But after you beat one of the scenarios, like I mentioned here beating Dogadon, going back to the title screen will actually put you in the next level that you're supposed to play. The second one you can do is the Minecart Level with Diddy. While I'm unable to show you any video of it, I can actually provide some screenshots from micro64.com, which will be linked in the description if you'd like to go check out the site. Squawk's instructions on what to do is very short compared to the final one. You also need to collect 70 coins in the demo, where the final you only need to collect 50. After collecting the 70 coins and finishing, Squawks will congratulate you with yet another very brief message. And the final level is another boss fight. However, this time it's against Armadillo from Crystal Caves. Something that you can actually notice here, which I am unable to provide footage of, Armadillo actually talks in this and has a voice, where in the final game he makes some more giggle sounds and mocks you, where here he actually has full voice lines. I'm unable to get any footage of it myself, but there exists footage on YouTube, and if you're interested, I will leave a link below for one of those as well. But that's pretty much all this demo of Donkey Kong 64 has to offer, so let's move on to the final game of this video, Tarak 2 Seeds of Evil. Now, I won't lie, I actually don't know anything about this game. The only Turok game I played back in the day was Turok Rage Wars. The reason why I'm talking about this one, however, is it's because it's one of the more sought after ones of the not for resale cartridges. So to help with my lack of knowledge, I'll actually be referring to some of the changes listed on the cutting room floor, a place I highly recommend you check out after this video, which will also be linked in the description. Firstly, the game actually displays a warning before you play, informing you of how violent the game is. And during gameplay, at all points, the Acclaim logo can be seen in the top right of the screen. It'll never go away. It's always there watching you play. Much like Majora'S Mask, Tarak also features a menu to choose where you'd like to go, but since I don't really know much of what I'm doing, I'm just going to choose the first option. All the blood effects were removed from this demo. No amount of damage will actually result in any blood being shown, while the retail version, however, has a way to enable blood. Another thing the demo lacks is the ability to save. While the save points exist and you can stand in them and it points out that they're a save point, you just can't do anything with them. They don't do anything, so having them be in the levels just sort of serves no purpose. I would go on about this, but like I mentioned earlier, I don't know a whole lot about this game. But if you're a fan of it and curious about some of the differences, like I said, I highly suggest looking at the cutting room floor. That and the site Micro64, which will also be linked, has a nice list of things that have been changed from all of the not-for-resale cartridges and the final versions of their games. So if you're interested in learning a bit more about these games, feel free to check out those sites. Now, I didn't cover all of the not-for-resale cartridges out there. Some of them have more changes than others. Some of them just don't have anything unique or interesting to look into. Some of them are just simply cut down portions of the game, much like how we see with demos now. Just there to give you a small sample of the game is like, but nonetheless, these cartridges are highly sought after and go for a pretty hefty price. Even more so if you're looking for one of the ones I covered today. These ones sell for a lot of money. So, are they worth owning? Well, unless you're a collector, I realistically can't recommend going out and buying them. They go for upwards of a couple $100 a piece, which is nowhere near as much as the normal games themselves. Not at all cheap. I'll never forget the days spent sitting in the electronics aisle at Walmart playing the Nintendo 64 demos while my mom shopped. That kind of experience only slightly exists now, and it's actually only Nintendo that seems to be doing them with their special demo stations they put up in places like Best Buy when they have some of their newer games, at least only here in the US. But outside of them, they seem to have all but disappeared. And it makes sense. Digital distribution are where things are moving forward to, and putting up a demo is just so much easier on the PlayStation Store and eShop. And it's also cheaper than mass-producing cartridges or discs. It also prevents copies of your demos being taken and sold on the internet for absurd prices.